Hey there.
Hi, everyone.
It's okay to
Welcome
record.
back to...
Renee, did you have anything to say or should I start?
Can you hear me or am I muted?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live community classroom with Michaels. We have our friend Edie with us today to learn all about joining crochet pieces. My name is Renee L. from Yarn Inspirations, and I'll be helping with any questions you might have during today's class. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat and I'll make sure that Edie answers them. While we're getting ready to kick things off, let us know where you're watching from and what you're working on today. What are we assembling? Over to you, Edie.
Hey, so hi, everybody. Nice to be back here with Michaels. It's been a while since I've been here, so I haven't seen some of you for a while, and you may have noticed the last time I was supposed to do it, I had a family emergency, and I missed being able to be with you. So I'm super happy to be here tonight and talking about actually one of my favorite subjects, which is how to put pieces together, because you know, you make all these beautiful things and then how are you going to put them together? And we only have an hour, right? A little less than an hour. And the quick answer of how to put crochet pieces together is it depends. So it depends on what you're making. It depends on what your fabric is. It depends on whether you're putting two pieces together side by side or end to end. Are you doing it by seaming with a needle? Are you doing it by seaming with a hook? Are you doing join as you go? How secure does the seam need to be? Does it need to be a decorative seam or do you want it to be invisible? And did I mention we only have an hour, right? So I am not going to show you every possible way to put something together. What I'm going to do, hopefully, is show you some ways and sort of talk you through some of those things and why you might make one decision over another, but I can't tell you everything I know in an hour. So I'm just going to do the best I can. All right. I've written an entire book on crochet, on how to put crocheted motifs together. So if you think about granny squares, that's what a lot of people are interested in. There's some special techniques that we can use for granny squares, which mean we may have to talk about in a separate episode. Are these episodes? I don't know if they're episodes. So what I want to start with is talking about sewing things together. So I am going to switch my cameras. Let's see how smoothly I can do this. And hopefully now you're looking at my hands with two granny squares. Now, I'm using granny squares just because they're easy, they're done, you know, it's a complete thing. And I have this nice edge around the granny square. So I have this, what I call the V, right? The V at the top of the stitch. So if I'm going to sew granny squares together, which let me mention, I almost never sew granny squares together. It's my least favorite way of doing anything. But it's the easiest way for me to show you how to seam things. So that's why I'm using granny squares. So there's several different things I can do. I'm just going to start, I'm going to use the green yarn so you can see the stitches. Normally you would use, say, the orange yarn or the blue yarn, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing here. An important thing is to put your reading glasses on if you're of a certain age. So I've done that now. I'm not going to worry about weaving in the end right now because I'm going to be pulling these out. But let me just show you a couple of different ways to do this. First of all, I could put right sides together. You see right sides together and just start going under. I'm going to start by going under two loops. So I'm going under both loops of the V here. So if I go under two loops and I do a whip stitch, it looks like this. So I'm just going from front to back or from closest to me to furthest away. And I'm whip stitching. So I'm going over the edge each time. And I'm going to show you what this looks like different ways. I'm doing this pretty loosely now so that you can see it. I would actually do it a little more tightly. So this is whip stitching. And it's whip stitching under both loops of that V. Right. And normally, let me pull that a little tighter so you can, that's probably what it would look more like that. Now, I could also choose to whip stitch just under the inside loops. So what I mean by that is it's the one furthest away from me on the orange and the one closest to me on the blue. You see why I'm calling them the inside loops? Because when the right sides are together, they are the two loops that are closest to each other. So let me whip stitch those for a few. So that's just going under the two inside loops. So I'm going to do about 4 stitches that way because we're going to open this up and compare them. Okay, so there I've done whip stitch under 2 loops, whip stitch under inside loops. Now let's do it under the outside loops. So here I'm going to go here and here. You see it's the one closest to me on the orange and the one furthest away on the blue. I'm going to call those the outside loops. So let me do whip stitch. And I'm trying to be careful not to split my yarn. I'm going actually under the loop. So I'm using this bent tip tapestry needle. It has a fairly blunt point, and I really like the bent tip. That helps me sort of dig into the stitch or under the stitch a little bit. So that's what I like to use for this yarn needle. Okay, so let's do these. Whoops, I'm forgetting what I'm doing here. I want to go outside loops. See, somebody needs to yell at me because I forgot what I was doing, trying to talk and work at the same time. Let's go back. Outside loop, outside loop. Whatever you decide you're going to do, you want to stick with just one thing throughout. But let's take a look now. Outside loop, outside loop. So I've done 4 with both loops, 4 with inside loops, and 4 with outside loops. So here's what it looks like on the wrong side. Okay, anybody want to take any guesses as to what it's going to look like on the right side? All right. Well, let me tighten this up. You see these two, see, this is the one using both loops. This is the one using the inside loops. And this is the one using the outside loops. Now, granted, they're green, and if they were orange or blue, you wouldn't see them as much. But what I want you to notice is when you use the outside loops, do you see how it leaves a little ridge here? It leaves a free loop here. And that makes kind of a decorative edge there, okay? So if you're going to whip stitch, that might be something you want to do, or you might not mind the way that these look if they're the same color. You probably wouldn't want to use a different color. Now, I want to go back and take this out. So that was whip stitch. I want to go back and take this out and show you. I'm just going to cut it in a couple of places. Let's be really careful because I want to rip it out fast. You can also use what's called mattress stitch to seam pieces together. And I'm going to show you mattress stitch a bunch of different ways because mattress stitch is pretty awesome. So another thing I could do here is say, okay, I want to sew these pieces together. I think my granny squares aren't quite the same size. That's too bad. But this time I'm going to do it with the right sides adjacent, well, right sides facing up, but I'm holding the pieces adjacent to each other. So I'm not putting them right sides together or wrong sides together. I'm just putting them next to each other, abutting one another. Somebody laughed at me one time when I said abutting one another. That means they're just up next to each other. And I'm going to work from one side to the other in what's called mattress stitch. So let me just start over here. I'm going to go into that V. Let me show you really carefully. Into the V and then out the next V. Can you see that? All right, I'm going to go there. And now, again, I'm not worried about weaving in my ends right now. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go into that V and then out the next V, the center of the V. and I'm going to leave this pretty loose right now. I'm going to go into this V and out the next V. So I'm going in and out like this, in and out. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here, in and out. Let's see. In the V and out of the V. I'm going to do that several times, back and forth. So I'm going in and out, back and forth. And now that doesn't look very good, does it? But it looks kind of like a ladder. But when I give a gentle tug, and I'm going to give a gentle tug to both ends here. Can you see what has happened there? That those two edges have come together, and you still have that little ridge because you're seeing the one side of that V at the top of the stitch, but it makes a nice, really tidy edge. And it can be easier to see what you're doing and to get your tension nice and easy or even, because you're not tightening it up every time. You're just doing it like every 3 or 4 stitches. You give a little tug and it pulls it together. Okay, so that's a really nice way if you're going to be sewing together using a needle, well, not a needle and thread, but a yarn needle and yarn. So that's one way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to take that out. Another way to put things together would be with crocheting them together. So in this instance, there are a couple of different ways you can do that as well. So I'm going to take some yarn and I'm going to use the green again, just so we can see it. And it may be that I'll use the orange or the blue in a minute so we can see what it looks like when it's a color that you might actually use. But here I'm going to, let's try several different ways. So for now, I'm going to put right sides together. You see the right side of my granny square. I'm going to put right sides together. And I'm just going to single crochet through both corners here. And then I'm going to single crochet under both loops of the first stitch and under both loops of the first stitch in the back. So I'm going under the stitch, the blue stitch and the orange stitch. So I've got actually, it looks like 4 strands on my hook there. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2. So I'm single crocheting together through 2 layers. When I get to my chain space, I'm going to work under the chain space or just in the space as well. And then into the next 3 stitches. And in this case, I'm going under both loops. And then into my chain space. So I'm going to stop here for a minute. Here's what it looks like on the wrong side. So this is the wrong side, and this is the right side. You see how I have those kind of blips right here? That's because I was working into the chain space here. Actually, I don't think that looks too bad. I think that's kind of cool looking in a contrasting color, but you know, you can decide whether you like it or not. But I've been working under 2 loops, right? 2 loops front and 2 loops back. Let's see what happens if I work under just the inside loops. So I'm going to work under this loop and this loop. This is exactly what I was doing before when I was sewing them together, except this time now I am crocheting them together, okay? So let me do a single crochet here. Let me do 3 of those. Inside loops only. And then in my space, I'll work into the space. Well, work into the space. Now let's try outside loops only on these last one. So I'm going to go the one closest to me and the one furthest away. Outside loop, outside loop. One more. Outside loop, and then into the space. So here's what it looks like, and you can't really tell on the wrong side what it looks like, except I do want you to see that there's a ridge. When you do a single crochet seam, can you see the dimension of that? Because it's like you have a single crochet row there. But what happens when we turn it over and we look at the right side? All right, let's see. We had, that's where we started. That was insides only, no, insides only, and then outsides only. It looks like maybe I messed up this one a little bit. So again, you can decide which way you like it, and you can decide if you wanted to use blue or orange, what would that look like? Is that something that you want to do? Okay. I just happened to look at the questions, and Liz says, do you need to put a stitch in the space between the grannies if you didn't use a chain? Probably not. So I don't remember if I had a chain or not. Here's the thing about any of these methods, and I'm going to switch my camera here a minute because I want to talk to you with my face. Okay, so here's the thing about any of these methods before I show you any of the others. How do you know which is the best method to use? Or how do I know which is the best method to use? Some of you who have seen me before are going to know what I'm going to say when you ask me a question like, how do I know, fill in the blank? The answer to how am I going to know, fill in the blank, is you're going to try it. You're going to swatch, or you're going to take a couple of your granny squares and you're going to play around with all the techniques you know, and you are going to decide which one is going to look best for you in this project with this yarn specifically. Okay, so yes, you can always just follow what a pattern says, but you don't want to be stuck with what a pattern says. It may be that the pattern is giving you the quote unquote best answer, or it may be that they're giving just the easiest one, but there's a better technique. So I really encourage everybody to not be afraid to experiment. As you experiment and you think about things and you learn new ways of putting pieces together, you're going to come up with better ways to do it than what the pattern says. And you'll be a smarter crocheter and a much more confident crocheter, and your stuff will look amazing. Okay, so try it. I am not going to tell you what is going to be best in any situation because I don't know. How do I know when I'm joining things? This is what I do. I do what I've just showed you here. I say, what's it going to look like here? What's it going to look like there? Should I try a different color? Should I try a different stitch? Okay. All right, lecture over. Let's go back to my hands. Let me grab a drink here. All right. So I've shown you seaming with single crochet. Nice thing about single crochet, if you don't like the way it looks, whoop, you can just flip it right out. You could also do this with a slip stitch. So you could do the same thing. You could try just slip stitching together. Now, slip stitching is going to look like this, and I'm just going under both loops right here. It's going to give you a tighter seam. You're going to have to be careful not to be too tight when you do this, but it doesn't have that dimension to it. Do you see now? I don't have that ridge. I just have this slip stitch seam. That's what it's going to look like on this side. Now that was going under 2 strands, so I might want to go under 1 strand on either side. Okay, so slip stitch or single crochet. Another option you might want to do is kind of using a chain. Oh, first of all, sorry. I did these with right sides together. I could do the exact same thing with wrong sides together. And if I did it with wrong sides together, I'm going to have a decorative seam, which may totally be what you want to have. So let's say I had these Afghan pieces and I'm seaming them together like this. And I'm just going to do my single crochet seam here. All right, I'm going to skip that space between the stitches. I can't tell if I had a chain one space there or not. I can't remember. So if I do my single crochet seam on the right side, I get a decorative ridge, and I may want that. I may want to say I have a ton of different colors and, you know, granny squares using up scraps. I may want to use a single color to join them all on the right side, which will sort of unify it. So you can decide that that's a design element you want, and you want the single crochet seam on the right side. Now there is kind of, they aren't exactly the same. You see how that's kind of the back side of the single crochet, and that's the front. They don't look exactly the same. There's no way to fix that. Okay, another way. All right, another way to do it is to do kind of a mesh, or there's so many different ways you can do this, but I'm going to show you one. So what if I put a single crochet, and I'm just using single, this could be double, a single crochet in this space here, just the orange one. And then I do like a chain 3, and I single crochet in the corner space here. Oops, don't split your yarn. And then I put a chain 3 or 2 or whatever, and I single crochet in this space. 1, 2, 3. And so I'm sort of zigzagging across. So here I'm putting some space between them, and these happen to be chain 3s, but they don't have to be chain 3s. So I'm just going to do one more here. So now I have this kind of zigzaggy thing going on between them. Or, did I tell you I had a lot of ideas? What if I take this, come back here, I'm going to put my single crochet through both of these, this one, let's see, through both of them together like this, with wrong sides together. So those wrong sides together. Then I chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I go through the spaces, again, both layers. 1, 2, 3. Then I go through those spaces again. 1, 2, 3, because I'm going over 3 stitches here. 3 chains to get me over those 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and come back here to the corner. So now I have this cool little thing, which is not, it has chain spaces here. You see that? So now it's not quite as heavy as a single crochet seam. It's a little lacier, or not lacier, but I don't know. I just think it's a little prettier maybe than that really heavy single crochet seam. So there's another option, okay? So here we are about halfway through. And what we've been doing so far have been granny squares. If we have time, I'm going to come back and show you my favorite way of doing granny squares, but I'm going to save that till towards the end, because granny squares are super duper easy to join compared to some other types of crochet pieces that you might want to join. Why is that? It's because you have those V's all the way around, right? It's really easy to see where your stitches are. So when you're joining one stitch to one stitch, it's super easy to see those stitches. But what happens when you have a piece that looks like this, right? Have you ever tried to sew seams? Now, sewing the top to the bottom would be a little bit easier, but what if I want to sew a side to a side? Not as easy to do, is it? So I'm going to show you about doing this. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not sure these are the same size. They aren't. My daughter made these for me. So we're going to, first of all, the first thing you want to do is make sure that your that the pieces are going in the same direction. Like, do you know how to tell which way your stitches are headed? So I want to look at these and I want to recognize that this is the bottom of my stitch and this is the top of my stitch, so that I know it was worked in this direction. Okay, so it was worked from here to here. And I want to do the same thing here. I want to look at it, make sure this is the bottom of the stitch and it's worked in this direction. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm joining the right side to the right side, because I don't want to have a right side on one and a wrong side on the other. Easy mistake to make. Double crochet work back and forth is really reversible, except I want to make sure I'm starting in the same place. So I can see that she made this and this is her first row. I'm going to consider this the right side row here and this right side row here. And when you see that, and again, apologies, they aren't quite the same length, but I'm not going to seam all the way up to here anyway. Can you see that I'm going to want to join? I don't know how well this shows up on camera, but the right side rows are a little smoother than the bumpy wrong side rows. I want to make sure that those line up because I don't want to have them off from each other, right? I want to make sure that they're really going to line up. So what I'm going to want to do, and I forgot to pull out my stitch markers, so, or my pins, whatever I want to call them. But here we go. So I am going to definitely want to pin these together so I don't lose track. I want this edge to be here. I want these two to line up here. So I want to make sure as I work along that I end up not losing track of what side goes to what side or which edge goes to which edge. So I'm going to pin these together like this. She was one row short. And that just helps me know that I'm going to stay in the right place as I go along. Now, again, I'm going to use a different color yarn so that you can see it. And let's see, I hope you'll be able to see the blue. Well, I can't find the end of my blue yarn that I was about to cut. So let me, all right. So again, I'm going to take a tapestry needle. I have to find where I left my tapestry needle. If you could see my desk, you could know that there's not that much space here. Here it is. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing. Normally I would weave in my end, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to work from the right side. So I'm not putting the pieces together like this because I don't want to whip stitch them. I want to work from the right side. I don't care what the wrong side looks like. I want the right side to be pretty, right? Nobody's going to be looking on the wrong side. So I'm going to start here and bring the yarn from the back to the front. Leave a tail that I can weave in. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go sort of back to front here. I'm doing like a little figure 8 here to start there. Okay, that was just like a little figure 8. Now I'm going to go in from front to back. Remember when I was doing the mattress stitch on the granny square? Now I'm doing the mattress stitch on this selvage, but it's not as easy to see. So I'm going to go in and out. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go in and out. There's not as much of a V to see. So I'm sort of digging my way underneath a strand here, in and out. I split a yarn. I don't want to do that. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in and out. And in and out. So my needle is always staying on the right side, the side closest to me. And here I can get rid of that pin, go in and out. And I'll do it here, and then we'll give it a little tug and see what's happening. So that doesn't look so great, but, and I probably should have tugged it sooner, but I give a little tug like that. If I had used green yarn, you would not be able to see it. You can barely see it in blue, but if I'd used green, you wouldn't be able to see that at all. Okay, and can you see that these are lining up, like that is lining up nicely there. So you just go in and out on one side and in and out on the other, all the way up. Pull it about every 3 stitches maybe. The other thing you want to be careful about doing is you want to go the same distance in. So I don't want to all of a sudden, here I've been working on the very edge. And by the way, I used a chain 3 as a stitch here. So I'm going into the very edge. I wouldn't then all of a sudden want to start going over here. Can you see that's too far in on this side? And it would be too far in over here. So I'm staying right at the edge stitch. Now, depending on which kind of edge selvage. So this is called the selvage, the side edges or the selvage. Give that a little tug. So that's looking pretty good. If you didn't have the blue there, you wouldn't be able to see it. But depending on whether or not you used the chain 3 as a stitch or not, you may have used an alternate turning chain of some sort. So I have another example here of, this is, let's make sure I've got them right side going this way. There we go. You see how there's a little bit more of a bump going out here? She used an alternate turning chain. She used that single crochet turning chain, if you know what I'm talking about. There are many different ways to avoid using chain 3 or chain 2 as a turning chain, but she used an alternate turning chain here. So the edge is a little wavier. So in an example like this, you're still going to pin it, but you might go in a little bit further on one side than the other. But you can almost see how these fit together. But I want to make sure that I'm lining up my rows here. I'm not going to do this whole one, but again, I'm going to probably start here. I'm going to weave in that in later, except, you know, I'm not really going to weave it in because this is just for TV, right? Can I say it's for TV even though we're streaming? It's not really TV, is it? I'm old fashioned. Okay, so here I'm going to go in, same deal. I'm going to go in front to back. Seems to be a knot there. Front to back here. Front to back to front, I should say. But I may need to play with this a little bit and practice it because I may not want to be way over here. I may need to be like a little bit over here to get rid of that bump. And what's going to happen in an example like that is that this bumpy part here that's sticking out, if I stitch here in this stitch, that's going to fold to the back. Okay, so you'll want to play with it to see what method is going to work best for you and how you want to do your turning chains, and whether you want to use this method or something else. So let me go back to my face again, because I can't help but do the little thing about how you need to swatch. So if you are making a panel Afghan, right, you're doing 5 panels that are going to have to be sewed together later. And whoever does a swatch on an Afghan, you don't care what size it's going to be. You just know you're going to make it according to the instructions, and then you're going to sew it together. So you spend all that time making that Afghan, and then it comes time to sew it together, and you go, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't used the blah blah method at the edge. I wish I'd used instead the blah blah method, because that would have made it so much easier to sew together. So you've spent hours and hours and hours and many dollars making this thing, that if you'd spent maybe 90 minutes doing a swatch and practicing sewing together, you might have made a different decision and you would have had a slightly better product. So I know I'm not going to convince you to do swatches before you do an Afghan. I'm just telling you why you might. You know, like, you're not going to learn from my mistakes, but I'm just trying to help you. I'm like your mom telling you what you ought to do, and you're like the teenager who's not going to do it. And then one day you're going to grow up and you're going to go, oh, Mama knew best, right? So one day I'm going to hear from some of you and you're going to say, you know, you were right. I probably should have done that swatch. Do you all hate me now, the whole swatching thing? I haven't been watching the comments. You may be talking behind my back in the comments and I don't even know.
Edie, we're going to be mailing all of our little discombobulated squares that don't line up quite right. We'll be mailing those to you.
Right.
Saying, you said it. We knew better.
Yeah, you knew better, right? And I'm sorry, my phone keeps dinging. You can probably hear that. I don't know why. So, okay. Let's see. I am going to look at the comments here for just a second. All right. And I can't, Renee, ask me questions that I've missed. There's too many questions. I can't keep up with it.
I had an interesting one and I answered this, but I would love to know your thoughts. So when we are seaming, do we want to use the exact same hook size of the project that we just made, or should we size up or down?
That is a great question. I usually use the same hook size. However, especially if you're doing something like something that's going to be like a slip stitch seam that's going to be really tight to start with, I would probably go up a hook size, but I'm going to want to play with it and find out what that's going to mean. Is that going to make my seam too big or too loose or whatever? So how am I going to know whether I need to change hook sizes? Somebody tell me, how am I going to know whether to use the same size or different size? I got to look in the chat and see if you're answering me. Renee is going to have to answer out loud.
Oh, we got it.
Right. You're going to swatch. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yay. So, thanks, guys.
You're going to try it. You're just going to take your pieces and say, what's it going to look like if I use the same size hook? Okay. What's it going to look like if I use a larger hook or a smaller hook? And you will be the boss. This is how you become the boss of your crochet, is you try it and you think. Okay. That's the difference between a crocheter who's not very good and a crocheter who's very good. It has nothing to do with how long you've been crocheting. It's how willing you are to examine your work and think about what you're doing and ways you can improve it. Okay. Any other questions before I switch back to my hands?
Totally. This is a read your work gospel hour. Somebody had asked, and I don't know this terminology, this might be the one that you love. They asked about doing a zipper join. Now, is that the same thing as a flat join?
I don't know the term zipper join, so I'll have to look that up, but obviously not here. There are a lot. The thing about crochet terminology is like different people will call the same thing different things. And so it's just not something I know as zipper join, but I may know it or I may not know it, you know, it may be pretty cool, but maybe something I don't know. I just don't know that term.
That's what I thought, but
Yeah.
we'll be learning lots today. We'll be good. We'll walk away with
Right.
lots.
Right.
All right, good to proceed.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you one more benefit of doing a mattress stitch. And here I've got a couple of swatches, which I did myself and which are pretty easy to see that they have the same number of stitches, because I mean, same number of rows, because hey, it's striped. And in this case, this is single crochet. Again, I want to make sure that I'm starting at the same place. And I definitely want to make sure that my stripes line up. So a benefit of doing mattress stitch is that you can see what's happening, because if you were doing it here, it's not going to be, if you were like single crochet seaming, it's not quite as easy to see them line up, because can you see how that green sort of jumps up into the orange? And so if you're looking at the very edge of this, you're going to think this is a green stitch, and it's not. It's actually part of the orange. So if I am seaming, excuse me, if I'm seaming from the right side, I can be totally sure that my edges are, my stripes are lining up the way I want them to. And if they aren't, hey, I can always go back and undo it a little bit. Never be afraid to go back and fix something. So here I'm going to do my little thing. That's way more yarn than I needed for this. It's just to get started. And come back in here. And so single crochet, a little bit easier maybe to find where you can go in and out. Front to back to front. Here I am coming up onto the blue, so I'm going to do a blue stitch. You see how that orange kind of jumps into the blue? So I'll go over here and make sure I'm getting the blue. And on a stripe like this, you've just got to choose one color to go with. And you're just doing the same thing here. Back and forth, back and forth. Then every few stitches, you're going to give it a tug. I need to give this a tug in the middle. So that orange is showing more than I want it to, but if I give the string a tug, hello. Sorry, can't see where it's going here because it's orange and I can't see it, but there we go. So it's going to show up a little bit because it's a different color, but really in the overall scheme of things, you're not going to see it that much. You're mostly going to get that horizontal look, but that's a whole lot better having the stripes work next to each other than trying to get them to match up here. Okay. All right. So what then, if you want to, you have a side and you want to, so you have a side like this that has the V's and you want to sew it to a side like this. Let me cut this. And I'm going to just rip this out and use the same swatch. So in this case, this is where you want to use pins. Okay, so if I wanted to say sew this to this, like I'm doing a poncho, has anybody ever done a poncho like this and you want to end up sewing here? You definitely want to match up your corners here and here. And probably your center too. It's never a bad idea to just use as many pins or markers or whatever you have it's worth taking the time to do it. If you sew, you know how pins, like you don't want to use pins, but or clips or whatever, but it's better if you do. So in this case, I would probably do kind of a combination of things, but I'd probably want to try it first, right? On my swatch, I'm going to take a swatch just like this. And I'm going to say, well, let's see, I think I still want to do it from the right side. I really like working from the right side if I can. So I might go from back to front here, leave that yarn tail. I don't want, in this instance, I'm not going to want that little ridge to show. I'm going to want it to be invisible. I think that's a design decision that I'm making because I'm the boss of my crochet. So the fact that I don't want that ridge to show means that I can't work into this back loop. I have to work into the loop that's closest to me. So I'm probably, let's see, what would happen if I go in and out this way? And then I want this to be this way. I tend to use Mattress Stitch more than I use whip stitch. And certainly more than I use running stitch. I didn't even show you running stitch because it's not very good for much. There's also back stitch, which you might use if you're trying to sew on handles or something. So I might do something like this, try it. Ooh, that looks pretty good. What do you think of that? I think that looks pretty good. So what I'm doing is I'm sort of doing a mattress stitch here by going under, not through that V, right? Because if I go through the V like that, I'm going to leave that half a stitch here. But if I go under the stitch like this, then that little half, that V is going to disappear. So actually, I think in this instance, for this fabric, which was single crochet, in this stitch pattern, that's looking really good to me. I'm very happy with that. But it could be if I had a lacier fabric or something else, I might make a different choice. So I can't really tell you what's going to happen every time. I'm just saying, I like that for this. So if I didn't like it, I'd rip it out and I'd try something else. So I don't always know, but I'm always willing to try it. Okay. So I want to show you really quickly my favorite way to join granny squares, which is join as you go. And this could be its own topic. It certainly is. I've written books about it. I've done classes on it, but I'm going to show you super fast. So I have a granny square that I had finished. Yay. I have another granny square that I haven't quite finished. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got to find the granny squares. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Got to get the right granny square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how that has 5 rounds? That's the one I finished. Here's another granny square that has 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds, and I'm working the last round. I want to join this granny square to this granny square, but I do not want to sew them together because that's hard. It takes too long, and I don't want to do it. I want to join it at the same time as I'm finishing this granny square, right? Because I don't like to sew them together. So here's what I'm going to do. When I've worked an entire piece, when I'm working my next granny square, I work it up until the next to the last round. See how it's, and then on the last round, which in this example is orange because I wanted you to see it, I'm going to start working that last round. But when I'm ready to join, so I want to join it along this edge right here, and I can't remember what size hook I was using. We're going to pretend it was this J hook. Now I want to join it to this side. So I'm going to work half a corner. So in this granny square, it's 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So half a corner is going to be 3 double crochets, chain 1. See how that's half a corner? Then I'm going to slip stitch in this corner. You see, that's where I want to join it. And just go straight in, slip stitch. That's like another chain. Now I'm going to come back to my original granny square and finish that corner. 1, 2, 3. So there we go. We've joined one corner. Here I am at a chain, excuse me, a chain space, right? On my granny square. So instead of doing a chain space, I'm going to go into this space over here and do a slip stitch. The slip stitch is taking the place of my chain 1. Now I'm going to finish doing my 3 doubles in my current square. I think this hook is too big, but I couldn't remember what I started this green square with. There's my 3 doubles. I'm going to go over here and do a slip stitch in the previous square. I'm going to do that all the way across. So I'm finishing my current square with the orange. And every time I come to a space, I'm reaching out to the previous granny square and doing a slip stitch. So what I end up with, and I'm trying to hurry so we don't run out of time. Here we go. Then I'm at my corner, so I'm going to do my 3 doubles. Sorry, trying to stay in the camera. I'm going to slip stitch in the corner and then do another chain because I needed to chain 2. Now I have joined, can you see this one is connected to this one? And I'm just going to finish my granny square here. Now, if this were all the same color, if this were green, you wouldn't be able to see that at all. It would just be look like, you know, 2 granny squares joined. You don't have to use a slip stitch. There are other ways to do it. There's a whole, there's another whole class and a half on how to do join as you go, but I just wanted to show you that this is really my favorite way of joining granny squares, any kind of motif that where you have separate pieces that you would otherwise join together. I like to use join as you go if I know what the plan is and if I know how they fit together. So look up join as you go and learn to do that. Or maybe they'll have me back and I can talk about that. So I want to see if there are any quick questions before we end. I wanted to leave a few minutes. I've shown you a few ways. This is not every way, but hopefully I've given you some stuff to think about so that you're willing to try it and see what's going to work best in your situation. Some yarns are going to look terrible with some finishing techniques, and others it'll be the perfect finishing technique. So there's just no overall answer. But the more you know, right? The more you know, the better you'll be able to make choices. And the more experience you get, you'll start narrowing down your choices sooner. So it's not like, well, I know 20 different ways to put pieces together. You're not going to have to try 20 different ways. You might say, well, I think these 3 will be the best, and that's what I'll try. And you'll go, yeah. Or maybe the first one you try will be, bingo, that's it. I got it. That's the one I want to try. Okay. All right. Questions. And Renee,
be the boss of your own crochet. We're getting t-shirts made.
Okay.
Okay. So I went through and answered a few where I could, but I thought this was an interesting one. How would you join double crocheted edges? So if you have a different, like, I guess, depth, which technique do you think would be best?
Well, so this was double crochet. This one was double crochet side to side. Was that the first one? So this was double crochet and I was doing mattress stitch on both of these. Both this one and this one were both double crocheted edge to edge.
Okay, perfect. That might have been an older question. Awesome. And then this one was interesting as well. Someone asked if you have any tips for amigurumi, because they can be a little bit tough to put together. Do you have any tips for joining
Yeah,
those?
so with amigurumi, even though I say I like to use this blunt tip needle, when you're sewing a stuffed piece to another stuffed piece, I don't mind piercing the fabric. So I'll use a sharp needle to not maybe to sew the edges of pieces together, like if you're, I'm trying to think, sometimes you'll have a tube that has to be flattened and seamed together at the end. Does that make sense? Like you're taking the round tube and you're doing this to it. I'll use a tapestry needle for that. But then when I'm sewing that arm onto a body, I don't mind using a sharp needle to go through. That's probably its own topic, amigurumi, putting things together. And I'm probably not the person to teach that either. But I will definitely use a sharp needle for that. Yeah.
Awesome. And then Liz asked, she'd love some tips on how to handle corners for when you are sewing granny motifs together.
Right. So when you're sewing, sometimes grannies are a little bit curved at the corners. And so you have to, all right, you come up to a corner, you're joining this one to this one. Sometimes you also have to join it catty-cornered. So you come up to here, you sew it to this one, you sew it to this one, and you sew it to this one. And again, we're saying granny square, but I assume you mean a square motif or a hexagonal motif. Every time I come to a corner like that in a different project, I have to play with what's going to work, because sometimes you want to sew it diagonally and sometimes you don't. Sometimes I'll go up and I'll join it here and I'll join it here and I won't join it catty-cornered and it leaves a little hole. But if you do that consistently, it looks great. And it looks better than trying to cram all those yarns up there and make a solid corner. To have a little open corner can be helpful. And I think it's okay for me to talk about my book, Connect the Shapes Crochet Motifs,
Yeah, absolutely.
which has almost not, I'm going to say not every way I know of joining motifs, but I talk about sewing, I talk about join as you go. I show a bunch of different ways to join different shapes and so on. So this is kind of like, I'm going to say I wrote the book on joining motifs, which aren't all join as you go. Some of them are seaming. So you can see a lot of different examples of how I handled that. And projects where we use different shapes of motifs and different types of motifs. Because I like to use the term motif instead of granny square, because to me, this is a granny square. This is a granny square. Other things that are square that are worked from the center out aren't a granny square. They're square motifs, but they aren't granny squares. So we tend to use those terminologies kind of loosely, but I talk about all kinds of different motifs. So, and I hope that I will see everybody again at another Michael's class. And you can find me at edieeckman.com. And on social media, I am Edie Eckman everywhere. I don't have a business name. I'm just me. So you look me up, you Google me, you find me. So right. It was fun to be here again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Edie Eckman everywhere, capital letters for all of them. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us today, which could be a pun considering the class, but it's just the script. Thank you for joining us for this live community classroom with Michaels. Don't forget to share your work with hashtag #MakeItWithMichaels and hashtag Yarnspo. That's YARNSPO. We're so excited to see what you guys worked on today, what you tested, and what will be a finished project. So make sure you tag us so we can see everything you're working on. And just a reminder that you can find more classes on michaels.com and the recording of today's class at michaels.com/classes. All right. Night, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.